Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So these are my Orqas and I absolutely love these things. Recent firmware just made them so you can adjust the field of view, which is something I've been waiting for since day one. And now that they can do that, these are officially the best goggles I've ever used. Analog goggles anyways. But today we're going to do something really stupid. We're going to take these apart. Alright, so before we get started, here's some of the things we're going to need. We're going to need a slaughtering iron, set of diagonal cutters, preferably precision flush cuts, a pair of tweezers, a larger pair of pliers. I wrap these with a little bit of Tessa foam tape or cloth tape, a double-aught Phillips head screwdriver, an old prop, and a replacement face Velcro pad from Orqa. That's it. That's all you're going to need to tear these apart. Why am I going to take this apart? Well, a couple different reasons. One, to show you guys how to do it, in case you need to. Two, because I'm curious. And three, because someone said you can't do it. Well, here we go. We're gonna do this. So, like I said, Orqa goggles. I'm gonna walk you through how to take these apart. I've never done it before, but it can't be that hard. It's all nuts and bolts. Stuff only comes together and goes apart one way, typically. Some people have said, oh, hey, there's specialized tooling and stuff to take those apart. To which I say, well, that's never stopped me before on anything I've ever done. I've rebuilt automatic transmissions without special tooling, you know, like the stuff isn't black magic. It's gotta be made, to the point where you can actually make a profit on this. If you need specialized tools to put these things together, I just don't see that being the case. So, let's go ahead and get started. So take your module out if you got one. I've been using the TBS Fusion. Guess what? It's better than rapid fire. I don't really care what you think, but I know it is. I've used both. That's better. If you get your Connect module, go ahead and remove that little guy. Obviously take your battery out, take your SD card out. We're gonna need to remove our faceplate here. Try not to wreck the phone. Yep, the phone got ruined because this is one of the things that is garbage about these goggles is the foam separates from the faceplate. By the way, sorry about my hands being all beat up. I've been replacing injectors on the LB7 for the last week, amongst a lot of other work. Go ahead and peel this guy off here. Now this kind of sucks because you're definitely going to destroy this thing. So before you start this, definitely go ahead and just get yourself a new one. Ugh, what a mess. Now let's go ahead and try to get this gunk off of here. Whatever they used, it sure sticks to the plastic well, for the most part. Let's go ahead and get this goggle strap off here. Get this little guy out of the way. It's kind of annoying. Let's just pull right off of here. Another reason you might want to be opening this up is if something's broken on them. Instead of sending them back to Croatia and waiting for a new set, maybe you can fix it yourself. So eventually, you're going to get these secondhand, or they're going to be out of warranty. And this hobby's weird, you know. We're very gung-ho about modding and taking things apart, but for some reason, when it comes to these goggles, everybody's just like, whoa, whoa, no, black magic inside. Do not proceed. I say the heck with that. So I'm just gonna get this off of here, and I'll come back as soon as I'm done. The best way to do it is just manually. You know, there's not a lot of ways to speed up this type of stuff. And there we are. So got our foam off, all our gunky adhesive crap. That is, of course I missed a trash can. Another reason you want to take this apart is what if you hate the color? Because I hate the fact that these are black. Like, Orqa, listen up. Make them white. Make them white and you will sell a ton of these. They're cool looking when they're black, or all the other dark colors you have, but when you're standing in the 100-degree Alabama sun sweating your butt off and getting nuked because you have black goggles on, that ain't cool. That is no fun. Need a spudging tool. We all have them. It's called a prop. So one of the things we need to look at is, before we bother even opening up the shell, because here's where all our fasteners are. There's one, two, three, 4, 5, 6 to get the shell apart. I have seen one other video on how to do this, and the guy just completely butchered his goggles. But what we need to look at is how to get these buttons out. And we're going to need a spudger tool to do that. So what we can do is just take an old prop, trim it down. Some people say they like to use guitar picks. I'm not a guitarist or guitarist, whatever the heck that's called. So I don't have any, but I'm an FPV pilot, so I have a ton of broken props laying around. And all we gotta do is carefully pry up the buttons. To reveal, there's a button. That is how it's shaped. Be sure to get some nice B-roll in here. In actuality, all that holds the button in is this friction fitting over that little post down there. So you just gotta be really careful to pry these out and try to remember where they came from. Little bites. Don't go whole hog at it. There's another little button. That's 2. By the way, folks, these are my goggles. I bought these out of my own pocket. This isn't super fun for me to do, to tear these apart, because I am worried about wrecking them. Because there's always that chance until you see somebody do it. It's like doing a double backflip on a dirt bike. Ain't nobody did it. One person did it. Well, shit, everybody does it. If you like what I'm doing here, if you want to support me, the least you can do is click like and subscribe down there at the bottom. I mean, this is some work, you know? It takes a lot to make these videos, both in time and money. All right, so your fan button, again, just very gently pry it out. And same thing for the power button. Just real gently kind of work around the edge. Just real gently. There you go. And they just kind of pop right out. Again, it's just a friction fit. So I think these might just pull off as well. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So just grab a hold of the top of this button, pull straight up. There we go. Little tip comes right off. All right, let's go ahead and pull the face apart here. So it's going to use a double-aught Phillips head. Take out all these screws. Should be 6 in total. I've always really appreciated how well the Orqa shell halves fit together. It has just been, always been very surprised. Let's just go ahead and run our spudger down on the case halves. You can hear it, and you can kind of just see them kind of snapping apart as we run them down. Clip, clip, clip. You probably make some money. Just take old props and sell them as spudger tools. There we go. Just kind of pull up on the case so it comes up over the IPD adjuster. Both sides. Now, something to watch out for is, see how these buttons are starting to hit the the case right here. You have to be very careful we don't keep pushing too hard on that, because we don't want to rip that button off. There we go. Make sure we tip the top half out first, like that. So see how we're now clearing all our buttons, and then go ahead and work the bottom half. Just gonna leave that spudger in there. There we go. Oh, come on. Just keep clicking back over. There we go. So you kind of want to work the top half out, tilt the top half out first, and then work the bottom half out. Carefuling. Carefuling. Push our FPV Connect ribbon cable through. Be very careful not to scratch these or bend them too tightly. So there we go. We got her in half. Pretty easy. I mean, it's certainly more difficult than taking apart fat sharks, but you know, it's all nuts and bolts, guys and girls and people. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so there's ribbon cables galore. I hate ribbon cables, or flat flex cables, however you want to call them. I really don't like working with them because they're pretty easy to wreck. So I'm just gonna take this one, spudgemer tool. Hope you guys can even see this. And I'm gonna just flip this up by hand here. There you go. So that's the left half, the module bay half. Well, that's that half. And let's see, what's the easiest way to get this side off? Go away, connect cable. Annoying. We'll just take the board out. So again, another double op Phillips here. This is like the I/O board. 2 Phillips heads, and get that guy out of there. And now we have the DC jack. Unfortunately, this is going to need to be deslotted from the shell halves, I believe. Yeah, okay. I was hoping not to have to do any slaughtering today, but it is what it is. Just got to remember which side's positive, which one's negative. It's very nice. They actually labeled it. So right here you see plus V. There you go. V plus. V minus. Let's go ahead and get those guys out of there. Okay, hopefully that's all the soldering we gotta do. All right, so we have successfully separated the 2 halves of the goggle. No muss, no fuss, nothing's broken. Real easy. Jeez, look how tiny that face fogging fan is. I think it's gotta be running 1,000,000 RPM just to keep the stupid thing cool. Okay. Let's keep on going. So this is something that a lot of people are having issue with, is this board over here where your module plugs in. These are getting pushed in. It's another flat flex cable. I'll just lift the restraint there. And I don't believe this is held in by anything other than hopes and dreams and friction. So let's go ahead and just flex the board. And push up on it. So all I'm doing is just prying the pins underneath the shell while pushing up on it. Oh, looks like there's some foam tape in there, you crafty little yackers. There we go. All right, so there's a little bit of foam tape right there. We'll have to just replace that. So I'm wondering what's failing in people's goggles, if this board's just dislodging or if the solder traces are busting. I'm gonna have to guess that it's these solder traces that are busting, because there's really no mechanical retention at all in there. Yeah, all right, so we'll put that aside. We have another board here for the microphone output. Let's see, how's that guy held in there? I think probably the same way, if I had to guess. It's always kind of a telltale when you see like a little channel like this, like, ooh, stick stuff in there. Don't mind if I do. Yep, a little more foam tape. The goggle built out of foam tape. Now, I'm just joking around. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love these goggles. I think these things are these are hands down the best goggle made, or the best goggle on the market. That doesn't mean it doesn't have its shortcomings, but they're pretty friggin' good. All right, so all we have left is the power jack. Let's go ahead and squeeze that guy. It's another press fit type deal. So there's our power jack. There is a completely bare front shell other than my little googly eyes, which look hilarious, by the way. Especially when someone takes a picture of you while you're flying and you're like really getting into it. Thanks, Joel. Really appreciate that. Maybe I'll put a picture of it up. Maybe I won't. I'm not sure. All right, so now we have the meat of her here. So this is the optics unit, along with all the other stuff. Let's go ahead and get this board off here. So this is just going to be a pull-up type thing. Just kind of very gently pry up on it, and there we go. Ribbon cable comes off like so, and then we have our HDMI out. I don't really mess with this thing. Put that aside. Oh, here's the fun one. Here's the one a lot of people complain about, is these craptastic stitched hoop danglers here. So if you're messing with Orqas and the goggle strap's falling off because of these red things that got torn, here is what you're dealing with. And this is another reason why, you know, you really want to send this back to Croatia just to do this kind of crap. Just to replace this, like that's environmentally irresponsible. You know, all the fuel and economics of going from wherever you live, like for myself in the middle of America, to back to Croatia. It's stupid. It's not a good way to run a business. They shouldn't have made these things so black magic, can't take them apart, you know, because let's face it, people need to fix their own stuff. Okay, so we got those out. Let's go ahead and get this this big old bastard of a PCB off of here. Oh, please don't tell me it's held down by foam tape like everything else. There's some funkiness in here. So here's a big old, this is probably like a CMOS hole battery, and it's just kind of wedged in there on top of the optics. You know, I don't think I've seen anybody take one of these apart, so kind of an uncharted territory here. Don't know really what to expect. I should probably be wearing an ESD bracelet, shouldn't I? No? Yes? I don't know. People do that still? It's gonna take some tinkering. Okay, so it looks like I'm gonna have to go through this end of it. Let's go ahead and take this off. By the way, so far almost all the hardware is the same except for the 2 screws that held on that power board. Most were different. You know, other than that, everything so far, shame. So get this guy off here. So this is just a little bracket. Holds in a little fart fan for your goggles. And that is a dinky ass little fan. No wonder it's so stinking loud. Orqa, another criticism I have is your defogging fan sucks. It's very, very anemic. It needs to be better. It really does. Get this guy. Let's get this guy out of here. This is your IPD adjuster wheel. Which one? There's tool. Okay, those are out. Let's see. So let's go ahead and take the actual IPD adjuster out. Alright, so these are different size screws. They've got a flanged head on them with that. It's the first screw I've taken out that was like that. I do believe I just got to lift up this piece here, and this should come out as assembly. There we go, that's one. And open out. There's 2. There we go. So there's our IPD adjusters out. So now we have our displays. And those should just pull right out. So again, 2 more little ribbon cables here. I really don't want to remove those from the board. Let's see if I can pull this fan out. Okay, yeah, so these pull right out really easily, so you can just pop your fan out. So let's see, let me see if I can get the information here off this fan. That goes in the fan 2 junction down here. Let's see if we can get these out without dismantling too much. So let me pull our optics modules out. We really don't want to remove from this tray. It'd be a good time to clean everything. So we got those out. I'm really gonna avoid trying to disconnect those. So there's 2 more screws right here. Let's go ahead and pull those guys out. I probably should record this at 30 frames a second. My laptop is struggling. Let's see, a different type of screw. Again, these are the same as the screws for the power board. Separate pile for them. All right, so there's a little clip there. Once you get past that, there we go. Completely disassembled faceplate on an Orqa. Yep, can't be done, you're right. Sorry, I'm getting a little sassy right now. But let's take a good look at this. So here is some monster heatsink right there. I'm not gonna pull that off for you guys. Let's see if I can get another. So here's the electronics cooling fan. So we've got a little hold battery. It's just kind of stuck on this little bit of. That's not even double-sided tape, is it? No, it's just kind of there, hopes and dreams. So we gotta be careful of that when we put it back together. That connects to the RTC port here. This is our SD card reader. I'm not an electrical engineer, so I'm not gonna be able to tell you what any of this stuff is, but if you want to know, just go ahead and hit me up. Here was our power input pads there. There's a MCU right here, but they've ground the face off of it, obfuscated it. I guarantee you that's for them to protect their IP. Here we have, I don't know if that's a proximity sensor or, this is for the automatic face detection to shut the OLEDs off. I personally disabled that feature because that's the last thing I want is that to screw up while I'm flying, so that's disabled. And this is so, like when you put your face in the goggles, the displays turn on. When you take your face out, they turn off. Let's take a look at the top of the board here. PCB V1, so this is the V1 of the PCB. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what any of this stuff is. If, like I said, if you want closer detail, let me know. I'll be more than happy to get it for you. Here's the optics module. I will not be tearing these apart. I don't have any reason to, but just like everything else, it's all nuts and bolts. These aren't like sonically welded together, so if you did get like a speck of dust in here, these can come apart. Again, you'd really have to have a good reason to tear them apart if you needed to. All right, well, that's them going apart. A couple of Phillips heads. Here's how we get that apart. Just be a little careful with this part right there, because it is kind of double-sided on. Just pull it till it comes off. So inside we have a couple 18500s. We all know that these are ultra low capacity and ultra craptastic. So 18500s is there. Little tactile button there. Here's the Orqa board. Orqa board. Sounds funny when you say it like that. But all in all, man, this is pretty basic, pretty straightforward. There wasn't anything really difficult about it. Just being smart about it, taking your time, and just going at it in a methodical process. That's it. All right, so let's go ahead and put the sucker back together.
One eternity later.
All right, so it's been a few weeks since I took these apart. I sent them out to be Cerakoted. Cerakoted is a baked-on enamel finish, primarily used in the firearms industry, but it's extremely durable. It's self-lubricating. It's very, very thin, but it's extremely hard. I sent this to a guy named Grant Lashley. He's in Florida. I'll put all his info right here, and also in the video description below if you want to get a hold of him and maybe get yours coated up like this. I just said, hey bro, you do you, you're the artist, make them look cool. He coated these and he coated my Tango 2 to match, and this is a extremely durable finish. Like, you can scratch away at this all day long and it's not gonna rub off. The inside's gonna rub off just because it's all overspray right there, but this is a baked on finish, and these things came out better than I thought they would. He did a great job, put a lot of care and detail into these shells. So let's go ahead and get these things back together. All right, so let's go ahead and get these covers off of here. I like the fact that he left the module bay doors like one solid color, just in case you damage one of these or something new comes out. It wouldn't be too hard to match up if you just rattle can them. This module bay door has always been a pain in the butt to install, and I can easily see that getting broken. All right, so it turns out my daughter's used all my double-sided tape for who knows what, so we're gonna go with the old standby. It's a little dab of E6000. This stuff's great because it doesn't get hard, it just kind of stays tacky. And I'm talking just a little dollop. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and start reassembling these. Put a little dollop of E6000 on the CMOS battery there, just to make sure it doesn't flap around at all. And let's see. I remember how these went back together. It's been a couple weeks. So the main board here just kind of slides back in. You want to line it up with this little groove here on the side, and another one on the other end there. And just push it in, and this little latch will snap, and there you go. That board is back in there. Go ahead and flip these little looky sensors in there. So we'll reattach those. these were the, I believe these were the smaller screws, like that. That one right there. Okay, so that secures the board there. Now we need to reattach the optics themselves. These just flip back around and drop into place. Be very careful not to pinch these ribbon cables. Make sure you can move the full range without anything binding. Very, very important that you pay very close attention to where those go. And then we're going to secure those. I believe these were the longer screws. If you're screwing this together and you feel like you're cutting new threads or things aren't bottoming out, stop. You probably have the wrong screws. So all in all, these aren't very hard to disassemble. I mean, I've dealt with worse. These aren't bad. So reattach our fan. Sorry, this cable came out of the front like that. There we go. There we go, like that. And one of these longer screws in through here. There we go. And let's not forget to plug our fan back in. It's going to go in this little plug header right here, labeled fan 2. So power is going to go on the inboard side. And this would have been a lot easier to do before taking the goggles apart. This is probably the #1 reason I see anybody having to take their goggles apart is to replace these stupid fans. You know, they don't last forever. The smaller they are, the shorter their life is. And I'm sure these aren't the highest quality fans. So there you go. Nice and easy. Be real gentle with it. Just kind of tuck those wires up and in. That way when you move your IPD adjustment, you don't worry about them getting smushed. And just make sure that nothing's binding up in there. Okay, so we got our fart fan on there. We got our optics unit in. We got our main board reinstalled. We have to assemble the IPD adjustments, the adjusters, the adjustomers. So that's going to be all of these pieces here. So the inner one here, this little gear, this is going to be retained by a flanged screw, like that guy. We can pull this wheel off. That was just on there to locate everything. So grab your flanged screw and drop it a bunch of times. And let's get this. There we go. I'm sure there's a bunch of different ways to assemble these things. This is just the way I'm doing it. So there's our gear there, and then this gear drops in, and this is going to get one of the flanged screws as well. Just make sure you use the screw with the larger flange on it for the inner part of the IPD adjustment. And then the upper one, use the screw with the smaller flange on it. Like this guy here. All right, so you can see I did something wrong here. I didn't index this wheel properly. So that's something you do need to check on when you're assembling this, is to make sure that you can actually get the full range of motion out of your IPD adjustment here. So all I need to do is just pick this wheel up and re-index it. So push your IPD adjustment all the way in and center up your thumb wheel, or this wheel here, so it's at least engaging there. Matter of fact, you'd probably go a little more if you were concerned about it. This last one here, if you adjust all the way out, only needs to engage this very last thread. You see right here. And that should be plenty. There you go. Now we have our full range of motion on both sides. There is quite a bit of room for error on these gears, so there's a lot of different spots that'll work just fine. So there you go. There's our IPD adjusters installed. All right, next we're gonna do is reinstall our goggle strap adapters, but I don't think I want to put these in there because I really like the Ethics goggle strap, not because of anything, because of who makes it or who uses it. I just happen to really like the way the strap feels, and I like the way it looks. So, all right, so we got the goggle strap through there, and I'm just going to take our little retention bar, put it through, and it does rest in these two little notches here, and we'll just go ahead and pull it tight, and there we go. I'm just trying to expand the material or the little slot a little bit with a screwdriver. Just be very careful you don't pull too hard. There we go. And we'll grab our other bar. Slide it on in. All right, so now we're going to reinstall our HDMI AV in board. That's on this side of the goggle. So let's go ahead and work over here. Reinstall a ribbon cable. So this is going to be the larger of the ribbon cables. To release this, you just gently pull up. It's only going to open up just a tiny bit. See, that's all the way locked. That's unlocked right there. The contacts go on this side. So let's get your ribbon cable here, and very carefully, these are very delicate cables. I'm gonna push it in so you can't see the contacts anymore, and then gently push down. You kind of feel like a little bit of resistance as you're pushing this down when it locks into place. And that's gonna end up on this side of the goggle. Okay, let's set the main body aside and let's get the faceplate out. And we need to reinstall our module interconnect board. At least that's what I'm gonna call it. This was primarily held in by a couple little tabs and some double-sided foam tape. So we're gonna need to clean off all this tape here, because I got a feeling this tape does way more than it should as far as the integrity of this board. Just gonna get a little isopropyl alcohol and try to clean off some of this gunk, the adhesive left over from the foam tape. There we go, nice and clean. So you're gonna need to cut yourself a new piece of foam tape about 10 millimeters by 16 millimeters. And we're just gonna go ahead and reapply it to the board here. Actually, I think I'm gonna apply it to the goggle itself. So just kind of apply it a little bit inset and kind of centered up with the goggle itself. I have cleaned this really well with isopropyl alcohol, so is to allow it to stick better. So go ahead and stick your foam tape in there. Peel one side off, and before you assemble this, I would double check your solder joints on the back side of this. Make sure they look decent, they're not cracked. I've seen a bunch of these fall in on people, and I would assume that it's because there's no actual like mechanical retention here, just these solder joints that crack. So make sure you've got those lined up correctly. And we're just gonna line this up here. And send her on home. Make sure your ribbon cables are not getting pinched, well, at least this one here. And give it a little bit of a squeeze. Don't push too hard though. So yeah, unfortunately the foam tape does way more than I think it probably should for retaining this. This thing, I feel like it should have had a screw, at least on this side retaining it. I don't know. Obviously I'm not a designer, but I think that probably would have done better in the long run for this thing. All right, so the next thing we need to do is reinstall our power plug. This was the one thing that we had to desolder from the main board. So I'm just gonna go ahead and push that back into its home. It is keyed. So you see there is a flat spot right here, and there's a flat spot on the plug itself. So it's only gonna go in hopefully one way, as long as you don't Hulk smash this thing. And it is a tight fit, so you do have to kind of push a little bit, but make sure you're pushing nice and even on there that you don't crack anything. Okay, so that is the front shell somewhat reassembled. And we're gonna have to re-solder our power board back down inside of here. The top one is this top one here is your power, and that is your ground. Make sure you don't mix those up. Make sure you don't hook them up wrong. Now I know some of you are probably thinking, man, this is a real pain in the butt to disassemble and I'll never do it. But I mean, what reasons are you really gonna have to disassemble these things this far? Other than if you're trying to take the case halves apart to get them painted or something like that. I really don't see too many reasons why you would have to disassemble these this far. There you go. All right, so this is some really craptastic PVC coated wire. If you've never soldered anything other than silicone coated wire, this might be a little bit of a struggle for you. The jacketing tends to burn back pretty quickly, so you gotta be kind of careful with it. All right, so now we got these two halves connected. It will be more of a pain in the butt now. Probably should have put the AV board back in before getting this far. I didn't. Actually, this is double-sided tape that's supposed to be going on here, and I don't have any anymore. My daughter has ran off with it, and I just don't have it anymore. So I'm gonna use my old friend E6000 again. So I mean, this thing is retained in here pretty darn well just by design. A little bit of E6000 will do the trick. I'll put a little dollop right here, right there. That should be plenty. And just kind of press it in place for a little bit there. And that should hold it. We just need to be a little on the ginger careful side of it. Make sure we don't disrupt that while it's curing. And that's that. Okay, so she's starting to come back together now. We'll go ahead and install our HDMI board. That goes on this side. This does get held in by some fasteners. And there we go. You just kind of slide it in place. Slide in place there. Oh man, I'm sorry if this is like triggering people because of how much everything's moving around, but trust me, it's no easier for me. And this is going to be a couple of the smaller Phillips head screws, like that. And there we go. That's pretty much all of it. This little cable gets routed through the side of the Orqa bay, or the FPV Connect bay. I'll just go ahead and slide that through there. There we go. All right, so that's almost all of it. Okay, so the last thing we need to connect is our module adapter to our goggles. And again, this one has a little flip up doors, except for this one inserts from the top, if that makes any sense. Probably should have connected this before reassembling into the chassis. Learn from my mistakes, folks. And this one, the contacts are going to go towards the board. You know what? This is going to be easier. I'm going to pull this off of here. Reinstall this cable like so. Close it down. And then it's going to be a lot easier to reconnect it up into the main board here. Again, you just pull down real gently. Install the cable and snap it shut. There we go. That's all together. And now we should just be able to very gently reassemble the two halves, but we need to deal with our buttons here at the top first. Okay, so when you install these, the lower part of the joystick buttons, you want the shortest end, that's the shortest between the dish and the lip of where the upper part goes. You want that to be towards the optics. Like that. That's how you want those to be. All right, so now all we have to do is just slide it all together. Be really careful about like this ribbon cable here. This thing is just very precarious. You might want to try to position it forward of the optics the best you can, or after the optics as best you can, and just make sure it doesn't get pinched on the way in. You just start sliding it together, being very careful that you don't knock your joystick buttons down. Just very gently, just kind of work the case halves back and forth. You want to kind of push from the top, push from the bottom, push from the top, push from the bottom. Being ever so careful. Kind of help these buttons through the case halves here. Push your IPD adjustments through. And just work your way around the case, snapping all the little clips back together. And that's it. Now we can go ahead and install our 6 faceplate screws. I guess before we tighten this down, make sure we still have full range of motion on our IPD adjustments. Still feel just fine. And stick our screws back in there. I'm not going to tighten these all the way down yet. Make sure I get them all started first. And then kind of work them all down evenly. Tighten down the sides. And we'll get the middle. There we go. Reassembled. Yep, got to finish putting our buttons in. So for the joystick adjustments, or the joysticks, the 4-way sticks, you can see how the button itself has a bit of a taper to it. Focus. Anyways, there you go. See, it has a taper to it. Just kind of match that up with the taper of the little dish in the bottom there. Should be pretty obvious which way it goes. There's one. There's two. Make sure you've got full range of motion. And as far as these buttons go, the ones with the long stems go in the back, like so. And you just kind of push them in and they lock into place. Nothing crazy there. These ones, I think the record went on this side here. Okay, so the record button goes right in like, there we go. I just gotta push a little bit harder. Here's the record button. Here's the, I think like what, function button or something like that. Let's go on like that. And let's see, we've got our fan button, which was on this side. That just presses in. And our power button. There we go. All right, I'll put our FPV Connect module back in. This one, the little contacts go up on the ribbon cable. Slide that guy in there. And we'll lock that down. And this sits in here like so. I'll probably go back and retain that with a little piece of double-sided sticky tape, just because. So there's our module bays in there, or our FPV Connect is reinstalled. It's my TBS Fusion. I'll put that back in there. And all we have to do is put the foam back on it. And we'll be done. Let's power this up and give it a shot. All right, got my goggle pack on there. Make sure we got a charge. Yep, looking good. What? Did you just overheat? All right, got my goggle pack back on there. Plug her in right proper, and let's see what happens. Oh, everything's working. All we gotta do is just clean her up real good. A little isopropyl alcohol. Get all the face grease off of there. Let that flash off, and you can see how much gunk has come off. We'll go ahead and hit it again. With using alcohol wipes, you don't want to work back and forth. You just want to clean in one long swiping motion, because you'll end up like grinding contaminants back into the surface. So you start by peeling half. And I gotta start somewhere, so I'll just start right here. bottom part here. Really kind of want to get this on the first try. One of these Velcro pads is something I would have on hand anyways, just kind of as an expendable. It's not going to last forever. It just can't. And there we go. So I'm going to let that sit for a couple hours just to make sure it adheres well before I put the faceplate back on. But that is it. That's how to completely disassemble a set of Orqa FPV-One goggles, which I've been told is not possible by the average person. It's got to be done at the factory. That's clearly not true. These are actually fairly easy to disassemble. They're not as easy as, say, not as easy as the Fat Sharks, but they're not that bad. Definitely, if you can build a quad, you can take this apart as long as you're patient and aren't really heavy-handed. If you want to get your goggles Cerakoted like this, check out Grant Lashley's Instagram page. Go ahead and hit him up there, and you guys can talk shop. And he does an awesome job. I really, really like what he did with these. He did an awesome job, and as a match set, the Tango 2. So this guy does a really, really good job. There's some things he can and can't do depending on the material that you're trying to coat, because it doesn't need to get baked. Sometimes things get a little warped, and you got to take that into account. So folks, if you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe. This took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and you know, this is a bit of a risky job here. I could have completely lost a really expensive set of premium FPV goggles. Also, I can show you guys how to take it apart and put them back together in case you need to get in there, make repairs, replace those stupid fans, which you know those are going to go first. Or if your board fell and you don't feel like the week and a half turnaround time to send these to Croatia, especially with the way the world is right now, international shipping isn't as fast as it used to be. All right, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking us out. Hit the links in the video description. All that stuff would really help me out. And keep flying, guys. Stay safe.